decades, humanity has reported encounters with the unknown. Lights in the sky, craft beyond our understanding, and programs hidden in the shadows. Now, the truth may finally be emerging. This is the Uncovering Anomalies Podcast.
Yeah,
it is. This is the Uncovering Anomalies Podcast. It's good to be back. Adam was feeling a little sick last weekend, but now we're here. We're here to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I had the green apple splatters, as they would say.
Oh, don't say that.
All right, I'm sorry, everyone. Sorry, everyone. But yes, we are back, and we are Team International. Me and Topher right here.
That's right. We're podcasting from all over the world. You can actually that map in the back, all those little lights. Those are all the different places we're recording from.
Nice. And exactly. And FISA doesn't even need to. I don't have to worry about. I mean, no, I do have to worry about FISA spying on us because it's kind of like an international call if you think about it.
Oh man.
So yeah, and they can legally spy on us, which is fine. We're not saying anything crazy. Everyone's talking about this, right?
It's true.
It's not a fringe subject anymore. UFOs and UAPs. Like seriously, everyone is talking about this.
Yeah, finally. It took some time, but yeah, I'm glad to see it finally all out in the open.
Yeah, and society needs it because when this stuff comes out, it is gonna confuse a lot of people, kill a lot of paradigms, and I think the more discussions philosophically people have about this, the better.
Exactly. And we definitely, we need to be distracted from what's going on in Iran. And of course, we need to be distracted from what's going on with Epstein. So bring on the UAP stuff.
Yes, exactly. And you recently did an article about the Exeter incident. So we will be covering.
I sure did.
Yeah. So we'll be covering that today and also share your article so people can go in deeper into that. And so how was that researching it? Was it easy to find sources?
Yes, there were a lot of sources. Once again, I apologize. My research is not up to snuff because of where I am. It's hard to get my hands on books in time. I would really like to get my hands on some of the books I've been doing research about, but I can read other people's research on the book, and that's the next best thing.
Right.
Listening to interviews and watching other podcast videos or listening to podcasts and all that stuff, and I think I get a pretty good idea of what's going on. Plus I can read articles about the debunking and get angry about those, and I try and do that with everything I research. But welcome everyone to the Uncovering Anomalies Podcast. This is episode 162, and that is I Have a Need to Know Adam.
Hey everybody.
And I am Tell It All Topher, and like Adam said, we are discussing the Exeter UFO Incident. I don't know how common knowledge this is for anyone or everyone. Probably those who are hardcore UFO researchers like us, you'll probably have heard of it, but this is one of the less known cases, I'd say.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely one of the less known cases. It was in 1965, so at the height of the Cold War, when we had, we finally had nuclear tipped missiles and rockets, right? And ICBMs. So it was a very busy time for UFOs. That's for sure. A lot of stuff was happening in the 60s. Of course, the hippie movement, people dropping acid and talking about aliens, and even, what's his name? John from the Beatles. He even had was that in the 70s? Is that in the 70s when he had it? Oh, never mind. I was thinking of the hippie days, and I think of John Lennon.
I am not sure. But yeah, so this took place in New England, like Adam said, 1965. And a lot of things were going on in the 60s. You had Betty and Barney Hill, that abduction, that also happened. Oh, that was in 61.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes, exactly.
That was a couple years earlier. And then just a couple months after this, the Kecksburg UFO incident happened. And I think we've done a deep dive on that one.
Yeah, we did it. Definitely did a deep dive on that one, yeah.
And then also there was the Allagash
we did that one too. That was in the 60s.
We did a deep dive on that one as well. So go back to our older podcasts. Maybe don't. I probably was not in the right mind frame for any of those. Any longtime listeners will understand.
Hey man, those got great views. What are you talking about?
I don't think I contributed to the great views part, but I was certainly having a great time, and I don't remember recording any of those. So there we go. In fact,
hey man, if you're having a good time, it rubs off. You know, everyone else is having a good time. Then
when I researched this case, I told Adam, I go, we should do a deep dive on Allagash or Kecksburg. Those sound really interesting. And he was like, we've already done deep dives on those. And I was like,
all good, man. All good.
Nice yeah. Anyway, things are a lot better now. So yeah, this is New England, 1965. And for those of you who are horror fans like me, there's just something about New England, right? You've got all these writers that come out of there. Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft is one of my favorites.
Stephen King. Yeah.
A lot of I don't know why the area is like brings all this creepy darkness out. I don't know if it's the cold weather in the night winters. You know, I don't know if it's because it's like one of the oldest regions in the United States, and it's just like got that old world feel. But they also have a bunch of UFO sightings and abductions. Like I said, you know, Betty and Barney Hill, Kecksburg, yada.
And then maybe there's a base either in the ocean there, or probably in the mountains that they have, the mountain ranges they have in that area.
Very well could be. You know, I haven't spent very much time, in fact, very little time in the eastern part of the country. But one of the places, this isn't in New England, but one of the places I've really wanted to visit are the Appalachian Mountains because of all the creepy stuff that happens there.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, the Northeast United States, I'd love to go visit.
New Hampshire.
Today we're talking, we're going to New Hampshire. We're going and we're going to talk about the Exeter incident. Really, it's Exeter mass UFO sighting is a more accurate way to put it. And it happened during a time that I like to call the early modern days of the UFO phenomenon. Mm-hmm. I'd say the early modern, I'd say it starts with Roswell. And in this period of time, you know, the 40s to like 70s or 80s, you have all the really fun UFO cases. You've got all the crazy abduction stories. You have the weird UFO sightings that make no sense. And this is one of them.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not just one man, even though it is focused around one man, or you know, he was a teen when it happened, but it was more than one witness that saw this. And we will see also there was someone not even involved with the major incident, but she came and did a radio interview afterwards and said that she saw those lights and that she was chased as well. So it wasn't just Muscarello.
Right.
But so it is around him.
This case, I think, really sums up kind of it's how the government versus the people in these UFO cases, because you've got there's more than these three individuals. I'd say they're the three main ones of this case, where it's two police officers and one 18-year-old man or kid, however you want to think about that in your head. But anyway, these three people fought heavily against the government to let the truth come out, because the government almost every step of the way came out and tried to discredit them and all this other stuff. So that's usual. To me, that's a big part of this story. And that even though when the people technically win, they don't really win. It's kind of a bummer. And that's kind of all UFO cases. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly, but let's finally get in our Chevy Bel Air and beat feet to the Exeter incident to check out this groovy happening. So the event, the leading witness of the Exeter incident is one Norman Muscarello. Norman was a recent high school graduate and enlisted in the U.S. Navy, to which he was just 3 weeks away from leaving for his service. Though he had not been the first to see the object, we'll talk about that a little bit later, his actions would snowball into the Exeter incident as we know today. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, Norman Muscarello was hitchhiking home along New Hampshire Route 150. Now think about that. 2 in the morning, 1965, you're hitchhiking home. That's such what a perfect time to see a UFO, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It was the night of September 3rd, a while before accepting rides from strangers was considered dangerous. On this night in particular, Muscarello had been visiting his girlfriend about 10 miles away in Amesbury, Massachusetts. And I'm reading this. I don't know if you're looking at the map. Okay, no, you're not, but we will bring it up in a bit. So about a 10-mile, and it's like a straight shot. It's not a complicated walk. It's not all curvy. It seems like just a flat, road through the countryside, 10 miles. When I Googled it, I think you can walk that in about, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's not super difficult, but it is interesting, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
He had spent most of the journey on foot and was not expecting to ride anytime soon due to the time of night. As he reached Kensington back in New Hampshire, Muscarello saw 5 bright red lights in the distance, which he first attributed to flashing police or firefighter lights. Because he was still a few miles from his home in Exeter, he continued walking, not thinking much of the lights ahead of him. However, his original dismissal of the lights would quickly change. As Muscarello drew closer, he was startled to find that the red lights were actually hovering just over the tree line nearby. Excuse me. And because the lights were so bright, 2 houses and a field near the lights were bathed in the red illumination. Those 2 homes were the Dining and Russell farmhouses. And the names are only important really for describing the event, because we're going to talk about where the UFO is in relation to these 2 houses and where Muscarello is and all this other stuff.
Nice.
It was about this time that Muscarello finally could make out what he was seeing: a large craft floating silently in the night sky, which he described as the size of a house, or bigger than a house, about 80 to 90 feet in diameter. So not huge. This isn't a Star Wars destroyer flying up in the sky.
Right. It's still pretty big, though.
But sizable. Yeah, definitely. I mean, as big as a house, that's a pretty big UFO. It's not an orb.
In the 60s. I mean, he was probably just shocked.
So I want to set the scene a little bit. Adam, you know what the witching hour is, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I have a kid.
It's that creepy time of night where things go from bedtime cozy to late night creepy. And when I try to look up the definition of the exact time of the witching hour, because I've heard it a bunch of different times, and everyone describes it as a bunch of different times, but typically speaking, between 2 and 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's fair. Exactly. I would say 1 to 3, but okay, it's fine.
Yeah. All right, Adam, I want you to put on your imagination cap, okay?
All right. Yeah, let's do this.
It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're walking outside.
Scary.
Due to the time of night, no one else is around, and it is largely silent. And according to Muscarello, there's not even the sounds of insects.
Ooh, that's a good hint.
You can maybe hear small sounds from farm animals braying in the distance. Maybe you can hear the soft crunch of gravel or road underneath each step as you walk. As you pass by a couple of houses outside of town, you see a large thing floating in the night sky, and it's completely silent. It's even more quiet than you're breathing. It's almost like it's sucking up sound. It's like a black hole of sound. The craft is emitting a bright red light from the lights on the bottom of the craft, almost like it's scanning the 2 houses. As you stare in fear and wonder, you feel the attention of the craft switch like a railroad track straight to you. And this thing in the night sky, as big as a house, begins to slowly move in the night sky toward you.
So what was I doing out at 2 in the morning?
Oh, no, you don't ruin it. Weren't you listening? You're walking home from your girlfriend's house 10 miles away.
Okay.
So that's what 18-year-old Norman Muscarello saw that night. Understandably, he panicked, and he quickly threw himself into a ditch on the side of the road, attempting to take cover and hide from the object. And this is one of those things that, like, when people talk about the wackadoo nature of UFOs, like they do doesn't make any sense. Apparently, this either worked, or they were getting a laugh, or they have some sort of alien, state of mind that we can't understand. So he jumped in the ditch, and the UFO was like, okay, and it went back to hovering over one of the farmhouses. And remember, these 2 farmhouses, the Dining farmhouse and the Russell home, they were next to each other, right? They were on adjacent properties. And so when the UFO was over the Dining property, Muscarello jumped out of the ditch and he ran up to the Russell house, and he started pounding on the door. And he's like, help me. I know something's going on out here. And of course, no one answered. I think he said he figured they were just asleep. It turns out the Russell house, the Russell family in that house, they knew what was going on outside and were like hiding. They were panicked. And they were like, no, don't get the door. Don't let them in. And there is the map right there. Yep. Where you can see there's the Russell house. You can see that X right there. That's where he was hiding in the ditch. It says crouched by the wall, but everything I read said he jumped into the ditch. So I'm going with jumped in the ditch. Right. But anyway, that's where he was hiding. That car right there that's on there, that will come later. It was at this time that Muscarello finally got some good fortune. the craft in the sky moved away from him and disappeared back over the trees in the forest nearby. And then he saw the headlights of an oncoming car on the road.
Mhm.
And he was like, "Oh, forget this. I'm not going to let this car go by." So he sprinted out in the middle of the road and stopped the car. And the couple inside, thankfully, were able to drive him to the police station. And the couple don't make much of an appearance in this story, and I found that really surprising. When I did some digging, turns out it was a man and the woman in the car. The woman was not the man's wife.
Aha, that's why.
And they were driving around at 2 a.m. and that's exactly why.
Uh-huh.
So that was it. They didn't make a statement, nothing. They drove the guy to the station. That was confirmed that Muscarello was driven by these two to the station, but that's all we know about them, and that's all that was ever known about them.
Interesting. All right, so they were just the ride.
They were just the ride. That's it. So now we're going to bring in 2 more witnesses. Actually, technically, 2 witnesses, but 3 more people involved in this case overall.
And just to make a point, I mean, all these witnesses are credible, right? These are not just fringe people on society and crazy people. These are credible people, all of them.
Because these witnesses who are now involved in the case are police officers.
Yes.
And no nonsense 1960s police officers. So not to go down flights of fancy. These are like, your old school serious cops.
Right, exactly.
And anyone who has done research into UFO incidents knows that officers of the law are notoriously anti-UAP. And it's not necessarily because they're like not into UFOs, UAPs, but because they have to deal with cold hard facts. Like, I get that. If someone comes running into the police station covered in blood, you don't go like, "Did you see a dragon?" Like, you want to know like who stabbed you, right?
And they hear lies. They hear lies every day, all day.
Yes. Do you know why I pulled you over? Officer, I've been drinking.
Exactly. People just lie about the smallest things to cops. Yes. So they constantly hear people lying.
Right. And police officers, other than maybe people in the medical field, have to deal with crazy people more than anyone else, right?
Yeah, true. Exactly. That's what calls the cops usually.
Right. So the police involved in this, they were at first like not at first, the whole time they were doing their job. They're like, "Okay, what happened? Okay, that's weird. Tell me more though. We got to get down to the bottom of this." And really what it comes down to and why I'm so supportive of these officers is because they were truth driven. When they first, we'll get into it later, but they wanted to know what really happened that night. And that's what drives this whole story.
Nice. They wanted the truth.
Yeah, the truth. So when Muscarello first entered the police station, he first encountered Officer Reginald Scratch Toland, who was working at the night desk. Officer Toland, or Scratch, knew Muscarello for some time before this event had occurred and was surprised to see him in this state because Muscarello was really, really freaked out. He was pale, shaken, and Scratch, or Officer Toland, like he had known Muscarello before, so seeing him like this was like, "Oh, what the hell happened to this kid?" You know?
Yeah.
And Muscarello told him what's going on, and Toland radioed a short version of the report to another officer named Eugene Bertrand Jr. And Officer Bertrand, I think,
Bertrand is a name that's in this case a lot too.
Yes, I can only imagine that he felt the hairs on his neck stand up because earlier in the evening, Officer Bertrand had stopped to check in on a woman who was sitting in her car, frozen in fear. This is the witness that we were alluding to earlier.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, cool.
When Bertrand asked her if she was all right, she had reported that a, in quotes, huge object with flashing red lights, remember, red lights, that's important, had flown behind her, following her about 12 miles from Epping to Exeter. The event had culminated in the large object hovering over her car before flying away. Though Officer Bertrand had originally thought she was a little off her rocker, he nonetheless stayed with her long enough to calm her down and let her continue to drive. So again, he pulls over this woman who's freaked out. She's like, "I got followed by a UFO." He's like, yeah, okay, just calm down, Didn't really think much of it because, again, when you're a 1960s cop, someone tells you saw a UFO, I don't think your first thing is going to be shining your light up in the sky to see what's going on.
Exactly. And the country was kind of divided too. I mean, the cops were very conservative back then, and then they had to deal with like hippies and people on drugs and doing LSD and all this other stuff. So you probably thought that's what's going on, or something like that's going on. What I found interesting, and this isn't in the article, if you look at the map, the Epping to Exeter map that's there,
And then the first one, Amesbury, was it Amesbury or Amesburg?
Amesbury, yeah.
Amesbury to Exeter. If you look at that on Google Maps, you can kind of see like the flight path of the thing. It starts in the northwest and kind of comes down and loops, and then later on we'll see it goes to the coast. So kind of like loop down, looks like from Canada almost, and swoop down and like went out to the ocean to the east. Very interesting flight path. That's speculation. It could be zip zopping all over the place. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's see. So Officer Bertrand returned to the station, and then he got the full version of the event from Muscarello. And upon hearing about the thing in the sky, I think a little light bulb went off. He goes, wait a sec. They're talking about a big object, red flashing lights. That's what that lady earlier was saying.
Right.
So he goes, okay, Muscarello, you're coming with me. We're going to go back to the farm where you saw this, and we're going to go take a look at what's going on.
Nice.
So, yeah, great job by Officer Bertrand.
Yeah, exactly.
Officer Bertrand and Muscarello hop in the patrol car, and they go right back to where Muscarello said he saw it, right outside the dining farm. And of course, now I'm forgetting the name of the other family, but those two farms right there. And so for the first little bit, nothing happened. They were just sitting there in the dark looking at these two houses. And Officer Bertrand was like, okay, I believe you, what's going on. There's too many coincidences here. Let's get out of the car and take a look. And so they do. They got out of Officer Bertrand's car, and they walked through the dining property to get to closer to the forest. Remember, that's where the UFO was seen. It was above the forest with those red lights.
Just above the tree line.
Right. And so as they walked through the dining property to approach the forest, here's my favorite thing. Things began to get a little strange.
Ooh.
Horses of the dining farm began panicking, kicking the fence of the corral and the walls of a barn. Dogs in the area were howling and barking like some terrible force of nature was about to happen. And then from the trees, a large dark object with bright red flashing lights rose out of the darkness and hovered above them.
No shit.
And in true creepy UFO fashion, the UFO began to slowly and silently move toward them, swaying gently back and forth like a leaf on a breeze. Now that's a very interesting way of thinking about, not thinking about, a way of putting it. It was swaying gently back and forth like a leaf on a breeze.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about UFOs flying around and stuff. We might have touched on people have theories about their propulsion. There's something spinning inside, so maybe that's why they wobble a little bit. But the wobble, I've never heard it as described as leaf on a breeze. That makes me think it was going back and forth, right? Not
but leaf on a breeze. No, that is typical too.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Even the Holloman Air Force incident, when they landed, they said the exact same thing, like it's a leaf in the breeze.
Okay. All right. Good. That's good to know. So Officer Bertrand, in true cop fashion, drops to a knee and pulls out his revolver. And I think,
put your hands up.
No, I was going to make a joke about he thought the craft was black,
especially in the 60s. Yeah.
Especially in the 60s. But I think that's probably like, how much cop footage, how much body cam footage has come out recently where like a cop will pull out his gun like drop of a hat. I think that's just the standard protocol. If you see something you don't understand or freaks you out, pull out your gun immediately. So he did, but he didn't shoot. He looked at it and was like, "What am I doing?" Puts his gun back in his holster. He grabs Muscarello, who once again is like freaking out, and they just sprint back to the car.
Damn.
And Bertrand hops in the seat, pulls off the radio, and they called for backup. And one of the quotes here is, "My God, I see the damn thing myself." So Bertrand and Muscarello in Bertrand's car once again sat there staring at this thing just up in the night sky, wobbling around, and again not making noise. I think that's probably the creepiest thing,
Yes, that's what messes with people. Not even a noise, and then the animals and insects around in the surrounding area also go completely silent.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
So the officer that Bertrand reached out to was Officer David Hunt. And David Hunt immediately headed to the officer, trying to figure out what's going on here. And so
Wait, David Hunt is he an officer or an investigator? Okay.
Officer.
Okay.
We'll get to the investigators later. So Officer Bertrand and Norman Muscarello waited for Officer Hunt to arrive, and they sat in the patrol car and continued to watch the object. I could not figure out how long they sat there for. I imagine 5 minutes or so. So now the object floated about 100 feet away and about 100 feet up. So pretty close.
Yeah.
The lights in the craft began to pulsate as well. And I found this interesting. Its lights flashing first from right to left and then left to right. And each cycle lasted about 2 seconds. And the craft continued its odd falling leaf, its odd falling leaf-like back and forth motion as well.
And this thing is as big as a house, like they say. So
big as a house.
Yeah. Wow.
Animals in the region continued to act disturbed. For a few minutes more, Bertrand and Muscarello watched this bizarre display that lasted until Officer Hunt arrived. As Hunt approached, he saw the same incredible thing. Everything. He saw the craft, the lights, the movement back and forth. They all saw the same thing. And this added to a growing list of reliable witnesses. Then the UFO decided it had terrified the trio enough, moved back over the trees seaward toward the town of Hampton. This is where I was talking about that map.
Yeah.
Because I had that all mapped out on the Google Maps. Yeah. Very interesting. So anyway, sure enough, the three would hear a police radio dispatch from Hampton a few minutes later. Witnesses were reporting an unidentified flying object in the sky. So that was the event. That's the Exeter incident. We have a bunch of witnesses, not just these three. But these are the three that the story is focused on because these three are the
Muscarello, Bertrand, and Hunt. Those are the three witnesses, right?
Correct. Scratch Toland is tangentially involved. He was answering the phone at the police station, and later you'll see that he was answering calls from tons of other people that were reporting a UFO. So let's get into what I have written here is the investigation, and that's crossed out, and I have the explanation because the investigation is very suspect, right?
Let's hear that.
We will see.
Let's hear who these geniuses explain away what happened.
Yeah. So the three men returned to the police station. Each immediately filed a separate report, right? You want to gather as much evidence as possible. Perfect. Good. Again, great work by the police officers. They're doing their job perfectly.
Absolutely.
Afterward, Officer Bertrand drove Norman Muscarello back to his home, informing his mother what had happened, and created the wildest excuse ever to miss his curfew. That was a fun little thing. We don't have to read through that. But seriously, can you imagine? Because you have a child. Imagine if your child had missed curfew and came back with a police officer and like, well, you believe in UFOs, so it wouldn't be that weird.
Oh, yeah, true.
But if they came back and said, your child was late because they saw, I don't know,
because she was doing homework.
And a police officer was there.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So after the Exeter police chief read David Hunt and Bertrand's boss, once he read the reports from those two and Muscarello, he reached out to the nearby Pease Air Force Base to report what they'd seen. Again, great job by the police here. They did everything in their job. Yeah. This police chief goes, hey, my officer saw something in the sky that can't explain. I either have to let them know that there's something flying around here that the Air Force doesn't know about, or, hey, you got a little too close to our people here.
Right.
So great job. But whatever it was, the Air Force arranged for Major David Griffin and Lieutenant Alan Brandt to interview Muscarello and the two officers. Griffin and Brandt, actually, I think these two were okay. Griffin and Brandt met with the three and took their statement before asking them not to talk to any members of the press. Unfortunately, it was too late because a reporter had gotten to the cops before the military officials did, and they had already interviewed, the newspaper had already interviewed the three involved. And then the newspaper that had interviewed those three was the Hampshire Union Leader. New Hampshire Union Leader, sorry. So Major Griffin would submit his report and send a copy to Project Blue Book for further investigation, which was active at this time. In his report, Major Griffin had this to say about the event. At this time, I have been unable to arrive at a probable cause of this sighting. The three observers seem to be stable, reliable persons, especially the two patrolmen. I viewed the area of the sighting and found nothing in the area that could be the probable cause. Pease Air Force Base had five B-57 aircraft flying in the area, but I do not believe that they had any connection with this sighting.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Again, I don't think these were bad guys. I think they did their job and they did it fine. And why the B-47 is important, that's going to come up over and over again when we're talking about this story. It's used used as both evidence that is what they saw, and it's used as evidence that this couldn't have been what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about Project Blue Book? I've got a summary here in the article, but you probably have a better summary than I have written here. We don't have to get too deep into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows about Project Blue Book already, but that was the government's effort to study UFOs, right? And it started as a honest study and investigation where people would call in to the Air Force and from all over the country and would give them their sightings or whatever they saw of UFOs, and it was mostly to calm the populace because there was, back in the 40s, 50s, there was just so much activity and it was cluttering up everything. So the Air Force wanted to centralize this information coming into the office instead of, they called it chatter, and that it was bad for intelligence because it would clog up the channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
when UFOs showed up. So that was part of the reason for it. And then, I think it did start out as a true, let's find out what this really is. And I think Ruppelt, he was one of the first ones. He wrote a book about it, and it's a great book. And he does stop short of saying it's extraterrestrials, or actually the first version of his book, he said it was ETs or some off-world thing, and then he changed it right after that. J. Allen Hynek famously worked also at Project Blue Book. So unfortunately, it did become a debunking project instead of really going after the truth. The Air Force told the people at Project Blue Book to just try to explain away as much as possible any of the incidents. And that's when, if you remember, Hynek, was it the Lubbock lights that the people got so upset of his debunking?
Yes, I'm really glad you brought this up because I was just going to say this.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think it was the Lubbock lights, and that's when he left. He was like, "That's it." He got really embarrassed. Even when he tried to really investigate these things, the government didn't help him, so he switched sides. Actually, Hynek.
Yeah,
but yeah, and that's what people now say, that Arrow is the new Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And wasn't it J. Allen Hynek that said he thinks about 80% of what they research, they found it was actual U.S. probably like U.S. based planes, but there's about 20% of it that they just could not explain.
Exactly, and they wouldn't let him even. He tried to go deeper into those ones, and they wouldn't let him.
J. Allen Hynek, great man. Love the work he did about UFOs, but he did also, I think it was him, he coined the term swamp gas as
that's him. That's him.
He later regretted it.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So yeah, I'm really glad I threw to you because that is a way better explanation of Project Blue Book. I just said, they investigated.
Oh, UFOs. Thanks. All right, I tried.
Yeah, no, that was great. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
All right.
So before Project Blue Book, remember Griffin from the Air Force Base, who was sent to investigate, he sent a report to Project Blue Book. So before they could investigate the event and provide any more insight into what happened that night, the Pentagon released their own statements. And normally it's like, good job, government. You're on top of it. It's good to see they took the sighting seriously and immediately took action to discover what had happened. And then you read their statement and you realize that it's just complete and utter horseshit. So according to the Pentagon, Norman Muscarello and officers Bertrand and Hunt saw, quotes, nothing more than stars and planets twinkling owing to a temperature inversion.
Oh my God.
So this explanation is so stupid. I don't want to waste much of my time or our listeners' time on it. But if you're interested, there's a Wikipedia article on temperature inversion, and I've got a couple of pictures posted here. But basically what it is, warm air gets trapped above cold air, and it can affect how light passes through it. And so you get like bendy things. It's hard to explain, but these diagrams help. And if anyone knows Fata Morgana, I believe it's called. If you look out on the ocean, it looks like boats are floating, and that's
right.
Kind of, that's what does happen,
especially over the ocean. Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious, dude. Like the cop pulled out his gun, and they visited the place afterwards, and it was after they showed up that it came up again. Like, how do you say that's temperature inversion?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, temperature is not going to react to some, small humans walking up to a certain location.
Right. And it just doesn't add up like with the rest of the witness statement. If you listen to what we just read, they saw a large craft in the sky. It had blinking lights going back and forth. It was moving. Right. And the biggest thing, it was illuminating the whole area in a red light.
Exactly.
Even maybe the flashing lights, you can say that's an optical illusion. Maybe. The rest of it doesn't work at all.
No, exactly.
So after the Pentagon released its quote unquote explanation of what happened, Project Blue Book released their theory. And so here's where we get into the B-47. Was it 47, B-57? Here's where we get into the airplane stuff. On that night, an Air Force training mission had occurred called Operation Big Blast. Now, this was a honest to God operation training mission. You can look it up. I have it linked there in the article. And the purpose of this mission was, Gary, this is a long one. Training and maintaining a force capable of conducting electronic countermeasures operations, develop and test ECM, that's the electronic countermeasures, warfare tactics and equipment, maintain a capability to conduct long-range offensive bombardment and air-to-air refueling operations on a global scale, utilizing the latest technical knowledge, advanced weapons and procedures. Be prepared to perform those tasks assigned in current emergency plans and related operations orders. Be prepared 24 hours around. I don't need to read the rest of this, right? They're doing the whole purpose of this. It's military training for electronic countermeasures. Let's just
ECM. Yeah, exactly.
But they're doing refueling. There's planes. There's a lot of planes in the sky at this time. Now, some of the
planes make a lot of noise.
They do, and that's another point of contention that really pissed me off later on. Some of these planes used in the operation were the B-47 fighters. Project Blue Book noted that since none of the pilots saw the UFO in the sky, it was probable.
B-47 fighter, you said. Like, see, how do they look like these things?
They're
God, that's hilarious.
So because none of the pilots saw the UFO in the sky, it was probable that Muscarello, Bertrand, and Hunt had seen one of the planes used in the training mission.
I found the red lights. They're right there.
Yeah.
Yep, right there. They're there.
So,
they're like nipples. All right, sorry.
Of course, that explanation did not sit right with the three men, Muscarello, Bertrand, and Hunt, for many reasons.
Right.
And they made their strong disagreements of the explanations well known. They were telling everyone what bullshit this was.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, and why I like the police officers in this case, it's because they were men of principle and they wanted to know the truth of what they had seen. They wrote several letters to Project Blue Book, which, at first, went without response. The letters outright rejected the explanations that both the Pentagon and Project Blue Book had given them to them and the public. And again, this stuff was released to the public. So these three, everything was released to the public. These three were interviewed by the newspaper. They explained what they saw. In fact, the very heading of this article, you can see the headline in the newspaper. It's huge. UFO over Exeter or whatever it said.
Right.
And then just a little while later, both the Pentagon and the Air Force come out and say, no, they saw twinkling stars in the sky. And no, they saw planes in the sky. And so these three were getting laughed at. They're being, oh my God, look at these three morons who mistook lights in the sky for a UFO. And so they were pissed and they kept going. They kept being public about, no, this is horseshit. That's not what happened. So because of the BS the government had spouted about temperature inversion and twinkling stars, the two officers had come under intense public scrutiny. However, they argued for the truth. They had both seen the object and confirmed with each other what they had seen. Are you seeing this? Yes. Are you seeing this? Yes. Not only that, they also confirmed that the weather had been normal that night. No temperature inversion. So the UFO could not be explained away by twinkling lights in the sky. Mm-hmm. Finally, and this is a big one, Operation Big Blast, the supposed training mission that occurred that night, it had ended an hour before the entire event. So it had ended at 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's so nuts. That is just, I mean,
yeah.
It's because they know, especially back then, that most people, or at least a huge part of the population did not believe in this. So any excuse, just say anything, and everyone just dismiss it, right?
Actually, I do touch on that a little bit later in the article, I think. Before Vietnam, trust in the government was pretty damn high.
Yeah.
And so the government could put out any explanation and people go, oh, why would the government lie to us? That sounds fine to me. Hold on one second.
And now no one believes anything the government says, even if they come out with the truth of this subject. And it's too bad. I think they want us. They wanted us in this position.
Yeah.
And I forget what CIA director said this, but like that their mission would not be accomplished unless everything the American people believe is a psyop or an untruth, something like that. There's a quote out there.
Right.
But they have succeeded.
They have. So, Operation Big Blast ended an hour before, this event. They also clarified that the object, which they had seen up close, had no wings or flight tail attached. It had illuminated the entire area in a red glow, and it did all of this while making absolutely no sound. Sounds of jet engines or helicopter blades, things that we know to fly. There was no sound like that. It was completely silent. And remember what Muscarello had said at the very beginning of this. He couldn't hear anything around him. It was silent. It wasn't like they were looking at the object and they could hear an engine from far away or anything like that. Completely silent.
That's how you can tell this is a true event, because it's a lot of them have these same signatures of no sound, complete silence. And that's what really freaks people out, because your senses, expect you to feel something, hear something. No, but it's just moving like a laser pointer.
Exactly. So it's really obvious that the witnesses, they had done more research into what happened that night than any part of the government had done. But what's more likely is the government was attempting to bury and hide the story from the public eye. So let's talk about John G. Fuller briefly, well-known writer about UFOs. He wrote a book about this case, and he did a bunch of research and interviewed a ton of people in the town. His book was called Incident at Exeter, Unidentified Flying Objects Over America Now. In his book, he detailed not only the main event, which we covered above or before, but he also found and interviewed other witnesses that night. He interviewed Scratch Toland, who again was operating the phone line at the police station that night. He received many calls from Exeter residents reporting the craft. In fact, this one is pretty chilling. One was from a woman who was calling from her home as she and her kids could see a bright craft from their window. So they were, I didn't write it down here, but they were sitting in the kitchen like petrified, and she's on the phone, and they're all just like peeking over the windowsill, looking out the window at this craft that's in their backyard. There's something in my backyard. Really, I'm making a joke, but honestly pretty terrified.
Of course, especially when it's that big and that close. It wasn't like it's far away.
Other people in the area reported seeing a bright glowing craft in the sky, hovering over homes and cars alike. Again, that's what happened to that woman. She was followed. Maybe I didn't go into detail on that. She was followed for about 12 miles, and it was behind her. She could see it in a rear view, and then eventually it came over her car, illuminated her car in that red light, and that's when she pulled over and it took off. But it slowly took off after that. But people were seeing UFOs for weeks after the original sighting, which is crazy. So it was in the area for a while, or there was a flap.
So it does make sense then. I mean, I think because when we look back in all these cases, it does have to do with like military or anything high tech. So if the military was doing like electric countermeasures and all these things, they probably attracted it because that's what they're attracted to. They know that technology equals power, and they need to figure out what is going on, who's using it, and which makes sense. That's why it happened in this area. So it's not that the witnesses saw the test, but it does look likely that these objects
they saw the after effects,
right? Like what's going on in this area. So there's an Air Force base close by, basically, right?
Peace Air Force Base. Peace. And then if we want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit further, one of the theories about what caused the crash in Roswell was, some sort of transmitter that was being tested that accidentally took down the craft, right? And so if that's the case, the phenomenon wants to know, well, what the hell is this?
Yes, yeah, perfect, exactly. I mean, and we'll see there's a post by people who use the scientific method to show that this is true, that these things are attracted to any anomalies that are going on on Earth. Yeah.
So by January of 1966, about 4 months after the original sighting, Project Blue Book responded to 3 witnesses. So remember, they were sending them letters saying, we don't agree with what your statement is. I don't, that doesn't make any sense. Project Blue Book was going like, okay, finally, let's take a look at this.
Yeah.
So their response was, based on the additional information submitted to our UFO investigation office, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, we have been unable to identify the object you observed on September 3rd, 1965. So their statement, that's it. Their statement is,
Brilliant, guys. I'm glad we spent millions of dollars on that.
Yeah. So that again, but kind of like you outlined earlier, Project Blue Book eventually, maybe, I don't know if it was at this point or later on, but it did become the debunking, part of the government, right?
Yeah.
So it would make sense for them to just not even acknowledge what all of this was going on.
Yeah, and this is the official Blue Book statement.
Yeah,
that was sent out by Major Quintanilla and the police officers involved. Quintanilla states, our investigations and evaluation of the sighting indicates a possible association with the Air Force Operation Big Blast. And it sounds like something Hexeth would call it. None of them have changed, huh? Big Blast.
The military, yeah, for sure. I mean, they change with technology, but I feel like they don't change with much else.
Right. In addition to aircraft from this operation, there were 5, like you said, 5 B-47 aircraft. 5. You know how loud that will be? Like, aircraft flying in the area during this period. Before final evaluation of your sighting can be made, it is essential for us to know if either of you witnessed any aircraft in the area during this time period, either independently or in connection with the observed object. Oh, that's good. Since there were many aircraft in the area at the time, and there were no reports of unidentified objects from personnel engaged in this air operation, we might then assume that the objects observed between midnight and 2 a.m. might be associated with this military air operation. If, however, these aircraft were noted by either of you, this would tend to eliminate this air operation as a possible explanation for the objects observed. That's it. Yeah. So no, nothing really there.
Yeah. Not a great look. So here we are. We've gotten really to the end of the Exeter event. Like I said before, even when the good guys win, and I'd call this a win, right? These three reported what they saw, and they kept hounding the government because they didn't believe that the real explanation. The government finally said, yeah, okay, we don't know what it is. So then what happened, right? Then people went to jail for lying and all that stuff. Like, no, it ends the same way. It ends the same way all these UFO stories end. Something crazy happened that night. A lot of people saw it who are reputable people, and there's no explanation.
And that's it. It's left with that. No explanation.
Yeah. Now, we were joking about this earlier, but I do want to touch on this about the 2011 quote unquote debunking of this case. Mm-hmm. And I really don't want to, but this is the type of the thing that gets the mainstream attention and that gets used to discredit UFO believers. And this is how, and this was the mainstream theory since 2011 for what this is. It is so frustrating. Listen to this.
Oh God.
The guy, I'm not going to name his name. He died. He's a skeptic who is considered Scully from the X-Files, and he was sometimes compared to Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
Here's his explanation. A pilot had been refueled midair by a KC-97 tanker aircraft. If you go back to the article, I've got a link. I've got a picture of this aircraft refueling, so you can take a look maybe at what this will look like.
So midair, what are we talking about? Like, 10,000 feet?
Yeah. So
over the clouds,
Muscarello, Bertrand, and Hunt saw an object 100 feet away that they could make the shape out of. It was completely silent. It was moving very slowly, and it lit up a property with a red light. And many other witnesses saw this. It was just a plane getting refueled in midair. Now, what's their main belief as to why this is the case, and this is their gotcha moment? That little flap or that tube hanging off the back of the big airplane, That's a refueling.
the refueling one. Yeah.
That's or not refueling tank. It's a refueling hose, right?
Right.
Gas comes out of the body of the aircraft, goes down that tube into the jets in the back. That's how they refuel. It's actually really cool to see. Anyway,
Very cool, yeah.
that tube, when the plane is traveling fast, that tube flaps in the wind like a leaf falling out of a tree.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's just how the UFO was described, right?
Right.
Oh, also there's red lights on the craft that blink sometimes when it's like ready to be joined with by the planes following it.
Of course.
So yeah, there it is. Case solved. Exeter debunked. It was this.
Yeah, even though the trees are like another 30,000 feet beneath this.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
They were refueling over the trees, and very slowly,
and silently, and lighting up the whole area with a red light.
Yeah.
So just forget everything you've just heard about the entire case and accept the debunking. Yep, that's what happened. It was a refueling.
It works, man. It works because it kind of, for the mind that wants to dismiss this, it's like, yeah, all right, perfect. Yeah, that's what it is. Moving on.
It makes no sense in correlation with it. No, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it doesn't.
It's such a stupid debunking. And that's why I can't stand skeptics and debunkers, because this is the level of quote unquote debunking that goes into these debunkings of cases. So and then it gets lauded as, oh, this is the real explanation. Like, what?
So who was that person that covered that in 2011? Do you know?
I do. You can actually, if you look up this case on Wikipedia, he's got his own here, I'll pull it up.
Oh, Wikipedia.
The whole point of him, I didn't want to name names. The guy's dead. I don't want to kick him while he's down.
All right, whatever. But he's obviously a propagandist.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, my question really is this: where do these ideas of covering up the UAP experiences of others come from? I don't mean from the government. That I understand. They've got their interests, and we can talk about the evil government and all that other stuff. That's for another day. But for people like this guy and all the other Philip Glass, all of these debunkers, they all do the same thing. They come up with these asinine stories that make no sense.
A lot of them are atheists, by the way. They think that it's just fantastical thinking, and they look down on people that believe in anything woo or mysterious or so I think it's that mindset as well that comes in. And they're very militant about it, right? A lot of these guys, you'll say, oh, they're paid off, but not really. They just have a inward motivation to debunk these things because it pisses them off. They don't believe in any of this stuff.
It's like, there's always that one kid when you were younger who's like, Santa isn't real. And like before it was like old enough to know that. And he like takes pleasure in telling the other kids that Santa isn't real.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's the same people. Right. The same personalities. I mean,
yeah. So that pretty much wraps up the Exeter case. I mean, something spectacular happened that night, and it got 3 people involved that were the best suited for the situation. 3 people that did not quit when they were attempted to be discredited and made fun of.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome for the officers to keep doing that. To really push for it. Those were good guys. They knew Muscarello as well, which is good. This guy usually doesn't look like this. He's never, they were shocked when he came in all frightened, which says a lot. A lot of the investigators, even the Blue Book investigators and the UFO investigators, vouched for these people's credibility. And they're not one to just make this shit up. And an officer is not going to take out his gun on a refueling jet.
Right. I think, I don't even think this was the fault of Project Blue Book. Because the original investigators that were sent by Peace Air Force Base were like, man, what happened here? I have no idea. And when they sent the report to Project Blue Book, the Pentagon, separate part of the government, immediately came out and said temperature inversion, right?
Yeah. And
Project Blue Book, you read that statement that they released, and I summarized it in the article, but they're like, okay, so there's a bunch of planes in the area roughly around that time. It seems to me they were like, here's a general explanation, but they weren't doing further research. You know what I mean?
It's too bad, man. It really is. And I think
Yeah.
the whole temperature inversion thing is probably because it worked in the 50s. They still tried it out in the 60s. Because
Mhm.
that's what they used for the DC sightings. That was temperature inversion. Or at
Right.
least for radar.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. It's crazy. You can see the playbook from so long ago, and it's still in work today. I mean, look at all the bullshit that Arrow is doing.
And
They,
Kirkpatrick, he doesn't stop. He's still
yeah,
doing it. Like the
yeah,
lies, the blatant
yeah,
lies that he says.
yeah.
Oh
It's
man.
unbelievable. So just take comfort, listeners, that government don't change.
No, it definitely doesn't. And I don't know how people all say, oh, the government's not a monolith. I don't know how they did it, but it still acts like a monolith, and maybe that's because they fire people who don't fall in line, filter
Yeah,
those people out, which looks like, because whistleblowers usually just leave their positions, and whoever stays there just goes along with it.
drinks the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Sightings did an episode on this too, just about 8
good.
minutes. And it's old enough where we won't get struck. And then we can listen to that other witness, the woman that saw
The one who's
that
fallen
saw
in her
something.
car. Good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's listen to this one.
In the 1960s, the American public turned to the federal government and demanded an explanation for the increasing number of UFO sightings. The government offered little or no information, disregarding or at worst discrediting the sightings and the eyewitnesses. In Exeter, New Hampshire in September of 1965, Air Force investigators arrived at the home of Norman Muscarello, and Norman learned that going public about his UFO encounter was a dangerous endeavor.
They came in my mother's kitchen, asked where I was. He said, "Where's Norm?" She says, "In the living room." And he marched right out there without asking or anything. And he said, "You, shut your mouth. Don't you say another word." Exactly what did you think you saw? He was trying to say to me that I didn't see what I saw.
What Norman Muscarello claims he saw was a brilliant UFO in a field next to his Exeter home. On September 3rd, 1965, Norman was walking home just after midnight.
I got right over to this stone over here. I'd say close to this stone wall. And this is when this thing appeared, and it was like it came out of nowhere. I was just zapped. All of a sudden, there it was. Big as a house up over these trees.
And he observed this craft hovering over a home right next to where he was. The home was completely bathed in red light. The area was bathed in red light. There was no sound.
When Norman reported his encounter to the local police, he found out he was not alone.
There were other sightings that night that made it interesting. In fact, prior to Norman seeing the UFO, Officer Bertrand came upon a woman motorist that was parked beside the road, and she described a similar object that had chased her.
In fact, there were a total of 6 reports filed with the Exeter police on the night of September 3rd, 1965. It was the number of credible eyewitnesses and the consistency among their descriptions that drew Raymond Fowler into the case. Fowler is one of America's preeminent UFO investigators. He has worked on many landmark cases, including the Allagash abduction. At the time of the Exeter sightings, Fowler was a member of NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena.
Our mission was to investigate UFO sightings, make them available to interested scientists who are studying the phenomena, and make this information public.
For the past 30 years, Fowler has followed through on Norman Muscarello's story. His investigation of the incident at Exeter is now considered one of the most extensively documented UFO sightings.
What made this case interesting to me was the fact that an object as large as a barn was seen within 500 feet of witnesses.
As the early reports began to come into police headquarters, Officer Eugene Bertrand was called in from the field. After listening to Norman's story, they drove together to investigate the area.
He pulled his cruiser up on the other side of the road, and we proceeded in this direction, down this way. He had a large steel beam flashlight in his hand.
At that point, Police Officer David Hunt drove up and joined the foot search.
And they walked out into the field, and Norman yelled, "Look out, here it comes," and up over the treetops comes this object right at them with the red flashing lights.
And come up over the tree line in this direction. Move this way, that way, back and forth this way, and then moved in that direction and headed eastward.
When the UFO moved away, Norman and the two officers returned to the police station. At the same time, a local reporter was filing this story for the Exeter newspaper. And the police and the press weren't the only ones investigating the UFO sightings. Officials at nearby Pease Air Force Base became involved. First, they interviewed officers Bertrand and Hunt, and then Norman Muscarello, who claims he was told not to talk about what he had witnessed.
I have no question in my mind, they're covering up something.
I'm thoroughly convinced that the federal government, whether it be the Army, Air Force, Navy, was out actively researching, trying to figure out what was going on.
It is significant that the Exeter sightings were in very close proximity to the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and Pease Air Force Base.
UFOs seem to have a keen interest in places where atomic weapons are either stored or atomic energy is being generated. This includes places like the Portsmouth Navy Shipyard, where you have atomic submarines. It includes places like Pease Air Force Base, where atomic weapons are stored.
Fowler believes that the Air Force launched a disinformation campaign, suggesting the Exeter UFO was a late-night advertising gimmick.
It was a classical case where you had reliable witnesses seeing an object that they couldn't identify at close range, and then having the Air Force, on the other hand, investigating, but then telling the public that there was nothing to it.
The incident at Exeter was the first in a series of UFO sightings which culminated a year later with mass sightings in Michigan. The public became increasingly dissatisfied with the military's official explanation, and a congressional hearing on UFOs was proposed by then Congressman Gerald Ford.
And he and other men and women in Congress felt that the Air Force was not handling the UFO problem properly, because they were getting so many complaints from the public concerning their explanations and so forth.
Fowler's exhaustive report on the UFO encounter at Exeter was put into the congressional record. During the hearings on April 5, 1966, the committee presented the findings in Fowler's report to Air Force officials and asked for an explanation.
I felt that this particular case was interesting, and that it showed that the Air Force wasn't really telling the truth to the public. They discussed the report, and the Air Force backed down and admitted that the object was unidentified.
Norman Muscarello's sighting had far-reaching effects on future UFO investigations. But for him, the incident at Exeter remains deeply personal.
I wish to hell it had never happened. No, I really do. I wish I could have just waltzed through life without this happening. I'd like to just be a normal person and like everybody else.
The Congress.
Yep, that's usually what it is, right? These people, when you know it's a true case, it's always the ones that wish it just didn't happen.
Yeah, a lot of parallels between that one and what was the one we talked about before? Falcon Lake, where the main witness that came out, he said, "I wish I'd never said anything because it ruins you." Yeah,
it does. It ruins their lives. Yeah. And I think it defeats them because they know they saw something anomalous. They know it was weird. Yeah, they were within it, and then here comes the government saying, "No, man, it was
it's just an advertising balloon."
Yeah,
exactly. What a stupid thing. So stupid. Thank God that video came out before that 2011 article. That really pissed me off because the whole every article, if you look up that debunking everything when they're talking about that author or that skeptic is like, he was so smart, absolute genius. He was the best there ever was. Yeah, he was Sherlock Holmes. And it's like that, and that's what he came up with.
And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I mean, we'll see now. If we get these files and disclosure, if anything's going to change, but I don't think so. It just the power structure just wants to stay in power. They're more entrenched than ever.
Yes,
right. They've created technologies from studying this subject that are just way beyond us. So maybe we'll see. I don't know. Trump is trying, right? It's not like I'm a big fan of Trump these days, but.
It always comes down to do you trust what he says? I mean, he just came out and said there was no correlation between all the scientists that have gone missing recently.
Yeah, I saw that. That's right.
So it's like, I think Trump will do and say anything that benefits him. That's how I'll put it.
Yes, and the reason why he's probably doing this whole UFO thing, because he's trying to say that he's the most transparent president in history, right? And he released JFK, RFK, MLK, Epstein, all the Ks.
KKK.
Yeah, and Epstein, which was a disaster for him, but he still did it. And now the UFO thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to listen to her? This eyewitness that she.
Yeah, how long?
I think it's from the 60s. It's only about 8 minutes, but it's from the 60s, so it's not really clear, the audio.
Well, why not? Let's give it a shot.
All right. Yeah, I think it's good for context and to show that there were other witnesses that saw this, and were chased. And I'm sorry, B-47s, or is it 57s, whatever they are.
47s, yeah.
47s refueling jets are not going to chase after people, at treetop level.
No, that explanation makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
This is the UFO show there?
Yes, ma'am. This is Fred Gale. You had a question or something?
Well, no. I was going to tell you about some sightings I'd seen.
Oh, well, good.
Two very close ones. And I'll tell you, before July 29th, if you had said too much about UFOs, I'd say, well, maybe. I'm sorry. Now I know they exist. The 29th of July, my daughter and I were up in Hampton Falls having coffee with a friend of mine. We started down the road about 11:30 to go home. And it's quite a dark road and woodsy. So there were bright red and white lights streaming to the middle of that road. And I said, well, we'll slow down. There's a car accident here. Well, we get up to where the lights were, and the white lights had gone off, but you could still see the red ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, gee, there's no cars here. Well, where are they? So we stopped. And I said, well, gee, where's the cars? I mean, where are the lights coming from? So Sherry was sitting on the other side of me, and she looked outside, and she looked up. And she says, well, up there. I said, you need air? She says, well, look. So I had to lean over. And then there hovering about 8 to 10 feet off of the ground was this oval-shaped thing. And I could not see the body of it this time at all. It was just bright green lights streaming down on the sides. And there were red ones out, onto the front. And they hit my car, the lights. And we sat there for perhaps 4 or 5 minutes. And the thing was rocking side to side. It had no noise. So, anyways, we were just discussing it. She got scared. She was almost in hysterics. And she locked the door. And we did roll windows up. And she says, it's awful looking. She says, I said, well, maybe it's a plane. She says, well, how come there's no noise? She says, it looks like something out of Phantasmic Features. And it's true. It did. It was very, very weird. So then it started rocking faster, and it went up a little. Then it looked like it was going to jump on my car. It scared me,
Mm.
So we took off, and I made her watch all the way home to see if the thing was anywhere near us. Well, when we came home, we stood out on the lawn, and at what I call a 45-degree angle, we saw this oval object, which was a silvery white, take off and go up into the sky and disappear. It had red, green, and white lights on it.
Mm.
Then we didn't think too much more about it, And I didn't dare tell anybody. And finally, a couple of days later, it bothered me so much. I mean, I just couldn't believe that I'd seen the thing. I told my girlfriend about it. She asked me to call Peace Air Force, which I did. And I asked them about balloons and so on and so forth. And I know a few things about them because I've lived near the base here and I've lived near planes down in Massachusetts, So I described it to them. And they told me that it was a UFO. They had to translate that because I didn't know what that meant. It's flying saucer, they called it. So then in September, the 16th, my girlfriend and I were out again, just around, looking around. We had started seeing things that didn't look right, so we kept looking, night after night. So anyway, the 16th, I guess it went into the 17th, it started up in a field here in Route 88 in Hampton Falls, and we saw 6 of these long red things. We don't know what they were. There was something we hadn't seen before. They fly below tree level. They have an uneven pattern. We saw 6 of those there. And then we saw, Chris, I don't know if people believe this or not, but stars can walk, and they're not really stars. Not all of them. I don't mean them all. And anyways, we saw all that there. So we took a ride down the road. And my girlfriend said to me, she says, there's 2 objects following us. And I told her, I said, well, you're foolish. I said, they don't follow. Things can't follow you. And I really didn't believe it. So we stopped the car. there were two objects, and they were large, and you might say that they were large stars, you know? So one kept going with us. The other one seemed to drag back. All right, we get down the corner of Ashbrook Road and this 88 Road, and this thing assumed a different shape. It looked long, with red in the front and red in the back and a little bit of orange. So that's all right. So we went down the street. We kept going. We stopped, and I mean, you have to see it to believe it. This thing stopped when we stopped. When we went fast, it went faster. When we went fast, it just went a little ahead of us, you know? All right, it followed us up and down roads. It made, when we turned, and a U-turn in the street, which I did, it went across the, to the other side, my right, and it was way below tree level. It kept right up with us. So out on 101, Route 101, I stopped the car, and this thing was ahead of me. It went ahead of me. It stopped right in midair, and there was no noise to it. I stopped the car, and we got out underneath, right out of the car on the ground there. And this thing turned and came back at an angle, and it went right over my car. All right, we got a very good view, and I had a camera, which I tried to get a picture of it. I didn't get it. Come out. But this thing, to me, the front of it was oval-shaped. It had what I call either short wings or fins. I don't know what you want to call it. It was long-bodied, and it had, like, in the back, a split, like I call a fin, flat, though. Then underneath of this thing, there was what I call a cabinet or a carriage, whichever you please. And it had square windows in it, which were illuminated, but you couldn't see anything other than a light coming from it and what might have been a ceiling or something, you know? All right, this thing was a dull metal, and it's what I would call a Hammett effect. This thing was no more than 8 to 10 feet over our heads. And it was a dull metal. It had lights all over it, larger lights around the edges of it, you know? And it was red, green, and white, and orange lights on that thing. Now, I don't know what it is. We went to Peace Air Force again. We called. They asked us to come up. We did. And
Good. And these two gentlemen are all excited here because they love.
I never believed this.
Well, they would love to sit down and talk to you about it. Could we get you to give your name to our directors? They could call you sometime.
Yes.
Would that be all right?
Crazy. So when she called the Air Force Base, they told her that it was a UFO. That's nuts.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those things where, like, the guy who answers the phone goes, "Yeah, it's a UFO," and then he reports it to his superior and goes, "No, you don't ever say that to the person who calls."
Right, because it was in the early days of
right.
Book. But it's that's a crazy experience. No sound.
Yeah, like one of the first stories that came out of the Roswell from the military was like, "Yeah, we found a downed UFO." Remember that?
Yeah.
And that
sorry.
Yeah, no.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a down UFO. It was just it was a weather balloon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes through the same process, right? Because you're dealing with humans, and if they're decent human beings, they're going to say, "Whoa, that's weird," and they're going to tell you the truth. And then it goes up into the bureaucracy, and then the bureaucracy like, "Wait a minute, guys, we can't say that this is a UFO. Just please, someone come up with something. What was going on? Do we have any activity?" And just push that, And then of course. They have their friends in the media, which push it, without even asking. It's unfortunate, really.
It is. So that was the Exeter UFO Incident. Like Adam said at the top, I wrote that article on my Substack, Topher LS Substack. Go check it out. I've got a couple more articles, and I got one more coming. I'm currently writing about the Penturk incident that happened in Wales. That should be out. I hope tonight, but I might need another day to clean it up. It's a big one. That's a really fun case. I was texting you this week about the Mage incident in Brazil, the one that we all watched in real time at the very beginning of COVID.
Yeah, are you going to cover that one? I think we should do that one too. That'll be fun. I
found a treasure trove of all the information that was deleted because
sweet.
For those of you who don't remember, I think it was 2020. There were helicopters in the sky chasing a UFO. It crashed. People were posting videos all over social media, and we watched
all over Reddit. It happened live, right, on Reddit.
We were watching it live, and then we also watched it got completely deleted, and we watched that live too. As the video started to disappear, and less information was being given about that craft and that crash.
That was such a crazy case. I remember everyone was taking videos from their phones and then uploading it. There were so many people doing that. And like the helicopters were there. It was chaotic. It was crazy. I mean,
There was explosions, there was gunfire. I mean, it was the whole 9 yards, and it got disappeared from the internet, man.
Of course. Well, at
It was
least you
crazy to
you
see.
dug it up, and the internet doesn't forget. People do archive. They know when something like this happens that it's going to be deleted, so they actively archive it. So awesome that you found it, and I'm definitely looking forward.
I gotta tell you how I found it.
Yeah.
I made a post on Reddit because I couldn't remember the name of the event. And I was like, man, what was that? And of course, if you search Brazilian UFO, you're gonna get Virginia that comes up, or Virginia, however you freaking pronounce it.
Virginia, yeah.
And so I made a post on Reddit describing, like, hey, do you guys remember this? It was all over social media. There was explosions and yada yada yada. And I got a private DM from a user who just gave me a long list of links of people who had archived this stuff. And I was like, no way! It was great.
Nice. So you got good material then for the article.
Yes. And I found some pretty deeply hidden YouTube videos too. Those were in the links, and that was super helpful. So yeah.
That'd be helpful then for us to cover it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really fun case. Do you want to do updates, or are we gonna call this the episode?
I don't know. I'm torn because there's a lot of updates.
Well, let's you can go through them go through them as briefly or slowly as you want, and we'll try and get through these.
Now, this is not recent, but it's still related to UFO disclosure and how long we've been at this. This is NASA engineer Bob Oshler.
I don't even know.
Yeah, and we've played clips from him before, and he was on Good Morning TV. I think this is in England or Australia, but even he was surprised. He's like, "Why are they telling me this? He doesn't say it in this clip, but before he's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being used for a disclosure of this subject." But he saw with his own eyes the craft, and the guy is an engineer. He's not like just he's a NASA engineer. Anyway, let's listen to him here. It's a great clip, and it just shows you how long we've been at this. UFO disclosure is nothing new. If there was nothing to this, and if it was just a psyop, trust me, they would have quit a long time ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah.
I have, in fact, seen with my own eyes on quite a number of occasions, well over 20, at very close range, a number of these vehicles. It's quite extraordinary technology. Anybody interested in technology it's like a kid in a candy store, really.
And there's no way that you could be mistaken, and it could have been an airplane, helicopter, or something of that nature?
Well, Admiral Inman convinced me that these vehicles were not manufactured by human technology, so that's pretty conclusive for me.
Do you think, though, that the government know this is happening, know that it's going on, but why don't they want the rest of us to know? Why do they not want that?
Yes, you are correct. The government, many governments around the world do in fact know. In fact, NATO conducted a study in the 60s involving quite a number of these incidents. The decisions to maintain secrecy regarding this center more around not upsetting the economic apple cart, religion, theology issues that come into play, and quite a number of issues that essentially center around science and technology.
I mean, how are we ever supposed to grow up as a species, if we don't get the knowledge that's out there? Like we're treated like children,
and that's the crux of it, right? And I think that's what the government wants. They want us to be children so they can, they can be our protectors and take care of us, because that justifies their existence.
Damn, we're in such a sad state, and because we see it collapsing, the government and all that. Mm-hmm. Then this is why we're probably seeing elements trying to bring this out, because they notice that it's collapsing.
Yep.
This is from George Knapp and, of course, Jeremy Corbell. So because after Trump ordered the release of these files, apparently Tulsi Gabbard went to Area 51 or Groom Lake.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say those are two different places.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will be widely known by the time this episode is going to be released, but here in Nevada, I'd been seeing these hints for a couple of days that the VIP visitor was going to be out of Groom Lake. And apparently yesterday, I don't know if Representative Burleson was with this VIP, but the VIP in question is supposedly Tulsi Gabbard, who made a visit. Flew into Nellis, then took a little Janet plane, I think, and went to Groom Lake and then came back and left Las Vegas yesterday. And I don't know, we've pressed Eric Burleson about which facilities he'll be visiting on his national security tour. I don't want to give anything away, but I hope he was in that plane along with Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's cool. Burleson was also recorded saying that if he finds anything, he doesn't care if he goes to jail. He's going to release it to us, even if it goes against.
That's one of those things where it's like, I love the talk. I want to see the walk.
Yes, true. Yeah, exactly. Everyone is still talking. Everyone is still talking. We have to piece all of this ourselves.
But I mean, it's just it's easy to say, oh, no matter what it is, I'll release it and I'll go to jail. I don't care. I'm for the people. But you actually have to follow through with that.
I have to do it. Exactly. He seems like a pretty honest guy.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean,
it's different when the decision is to be made. Right.
Right. Yeah. We'll see.
So apparently,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, apparently after she visited, Tulsi visited Area 51, a bunch of earthquakes happened. This was, there's no date on here. Oh, May 1st. So a couple of days ago. So this is from News Nation.
Well, in the span of 24 hours, there have been 17 earthquakes near Area 51. Started with a 4.4 magnitude quake, just 2.5 miles underground. The area is normally not prone to earthquakes this shallow, and it's leading to theories of nuclear testing or even UFOs, because it all happened after President Trump said this.
Do you have an update on the UFO files and what we're going to be seeing?
Well, I think we're going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. They want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material, and we're going to be releasing a lot of things that we have. And I think some of it's going to be very interesting.
Joining us now to respond, Dr. Stephen Greer, UFO researcher in retired position. Great to see you, Doctor. So are these earthquakes just a version of burning the files at an embassy when people got to get out?
Well, the thing that lights up in my mind is that back in the 1990s, I briefed a man who worked and designed the security apparatus at some of the facilities out there, particularly the ones up near Groom Lake and Pahut Mesa. And he explained that on the top of those complexes underground were like bunker busting type bombs, but underneath them were thermonuclear devices, so that if anybody was getting close to those facilities, and by this, it could even be the legal government of the United States, they could collapse those facilities. Now, I don't know that that's what happened, but I know for a fact those security systems are out there. So that's one consideration. Now, it could just be a cluster of earthquakes, or they could be doing some legitimate underground testing out in that region.
Yeah, there are a lot of mountains out there, so earthquakes are not out of the question.
Yeah, but 2 miles, only 2 miles is pretty shallow.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's I mean, I can't even pretend to begin to question.
If I was them, I would blow up all that stuff too. I mean, it just makes logical sense for just the behavior of these people over the decades of just lying and obfuscating and keeping the secret, keeping the status quo. Yeah, they would just blow everything up.
Maybe there's a second Dulce war going on.
Ah, yes, maybe.
I still haven't got a chance to read the book. I've read a couple pages, but I've been writing, so I try not to cross-contaminate my UFO stuff as I'm doing research and writing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Corbell also was on what's his name, Peter Ducey's show about the 46 UAP videos, which is cool. I mean, this is on Fox. This came out today.
Cool.
Ducey's the one who pushed Trump too. He's always pushing Trump about the UFO thing.
Good. We need plenty of those.
Yeah, Trump likes his questions. Ducey's hilarious. So yeah, this is on his show. I didn't know he had a show. But yeah, here's Corbell.
Jeremy Corbell is an investigative journalist and the co-host of the Weaponized podcast. He knows more about this than anybody, and the new movie about him, Sleeping Dog and UFO Disclosure, is excellent. I watched it yesterday.
No, we should watch that.
Jeremy, there are 6 videos that Congress wants the Pentagon to declassify. The Pentagon missed the deadline to do it. But will these 46 videos be convincing enough to have Americans saying, I have no doubts aliens have visited Earth?
I think that these are data points. I think these 46 videos are really important. I think the American public should be able to see them, and so does Congress. They specifically identified these 46 videos because they know that these videos exist. They are designated UAP by our own military and intelligence services. I have been exposed to a number of these. In fact, George Knapp and I provided that list to Congress. We've actually released some of those videos. So the American public is ready for this. Now, what it's going to tell us, what the end result is going to be, it's another data set of footage the American public can look at. But here is what I know for fact, Peter. There are machines, there are craft of unknown origin that fly with impunity in our restricted airspace. And our government has been assessing this as a national threat for decades. The jig is up. People now know UAP are real. But what are UAP? Who are flying these machines? Who made these machines that can outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform our greatest war fighters? That's the question.
And so you were just talking about this. We've got video that we can put up on the screen. One of the videos that your sources helped you guys get out of a government vault. It is a UAP over Syria in 2021, flying at an impossible speed, demonstrating instantaneous acceleration. This is the video. A lot of people will look at this and say, well, it could be China, it could be Russia, it could be somebody else. But when you see this and the other videos, some of the 45 other videos that you have seen, what do you think?
Yeah, look, we do not have the capability, unfortunately, for instantaneous motion. The idea of inertial effect and what would happen, this is baffling to the intelligence community. What George and I put out, it is their analysis that this is demonstrating, this craft, which is not aerodynamic. When you look at this video, it instantaneously shoots off to the right once the Reaper drone got a weapons grade lock on it. So its ability to maneuver is far beyond anything that China, Russia, or the US has. Look, this is a known secret on the inside. It's an open secret that UAP are real and that they're able to evade sometimes detection, but absolutely our weaponry. And it's an issue because they are oftentimes loitering over sensitive critical infrastructure within the United States. This is not me saying this. This has been admitted by our own administration and government. I think we're closer than ever. The intent is to bring the truth forward to the American public. We are closer than ever, and it's just got to be done now.
And my last question, we have 2 minutes left in the show. You've reported that some of these UFO files for generations have been kept secret even from sitting presidents. Who would have the power in this country to decide, if not the president, that the American people don't have a right to know about something so important like UFOs?
Right. This is game changing, and it's nature itself. It's not something that should be held back. And presidents have admitted that they have been held out from that information. Very famously, President Clinton talked about that. Not the first time he said a president's been lied to. Well, now the pressure is on. Congress is asking for these 46 videos. And if we've ever had an administration and a president that sees the public interest and would enact upon that for the people, it would be this sitting president. So I'm very encouraged at this moment. We have an opportunity. None of these have really been announcements. It's an opportunity now for the American public to understand the UFO presence is real and that it's been going on a long time, and it has been of national security concern.
And we have less than a minute left in the show, but we asked our audience if they had questions for you, and Lena sent one in.
All right, it's not that important. But yeah, I mean, I think he's right that Trump would be the guy to do this just because he's a narcissist and he wants to be known as the guy who released the UFO files.
Yeah, wants to leave a legacy.
Yeah, the same reason why he's in Iran, because he wants to be known as like the savior for the Jews, or to be some historical figure in their history, right? If they're able to create greater Israel because of what he's trying to do with Iran. And that's how they convinced him. That's how you convince Trump. Just stroke his ego, tell him he'll be the greatest ever. History would look back on him as being this, great figure, and it works on him. He'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do it now. Yeah. And that's how Netanyahu works with him.
Right. Well, man, I guess we'll see. I'm really looking forward to what disclosure is going to look like. I really hope it's something worthwhile and not something that's just a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's not a hold our breath. I think it's going to be like a needle in a haystack for us. So just like JFK, right? It was millions of documents. Epstein, millions of documents. So we're going to have to go through them, every single one. I know that's not humanly possible. So But there are AI tools out there that we can use to go through these files once they come in. And we will be doing that. We'll definitely have a show once aliens.gov is released. We'll do it.
And the second they land, I'm getting an interview with one.
Hell yeah, man. Are you
all right, Claxor, tell us about your home planet.
How are you going to dress up?
God, what's the most human man? Wait, I'm going to wear blue jeans, a polo, and a hat. A cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's totally, yes, exactly.
Just to make it clear that I am a human male.
Are you going to mess with them in a little bit?
Oh, totally.
Take me to your leader.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked to see his anal probes, what size he prefers. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any of those Nordic women's there somewhere?
Yeah. Can I meet some of them, or are they available?
Sick, man. So this is making the rounds on Reddit, on the UFO B subreddit. This guy could be LARPing. I don't know.
It's just furthering the same agenda we've been hearing for 50, 60 years.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think there's anything really new in what he's saying, right?
Right.
It's the same shit that your reality is going to be shattered and you're not going to be able to handle it. And if you're religious, you're going to have to rethink your reality, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently this guy does work in the program or something.
Wait, he says he does. Does he have proof?
Yeah. No. There's no proof at all provided here. At all. And of course the commenter is going after that, which, I would too.
Yep.
Because we're all sick of this.
Yep. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
So disclosure will be, this guy says disclosure will be too much for some folks in this sub. Now this is the UFO B sub. Not many, but some. Hold on to your seats and prepare to be very open-minded and question everything you thought you once knew. Imagine multiple civilizations coexisting on Earth, but in separate time dimensions. Imagine our existence being microscopic compared to other intelligent life forms out there and in here. The government disclosure of UAP and NHI will go far beyond revealing other intelligent entities beyond our scope of reality. It'll explore the foundation of our origins and what ultimately happens to us following our physical lives in the third dimension. Please note that I'm not dismissing anyone's religious beliefs. I'm just providing a preview of disclosure days. Also, I apologize ahead of time if I don't have time to interact with this post. I'm working 16 to 18-hour shifts until disclosure happens. P.S. Up until a few weeks ago, everything I knew was limited to a few program compartments that kept my view somewhat narrow. And then the government merged many compartments so programs could begin to build disclosure essays. I mean, that just sounds like propaganda, disclosure essays.
Yeah.
What we've recently learned is profound. It's really exciting, and I can't wait for all of you to be in the loop. And by no means is any of this absolutely conclusive. All of this information will then be tested by a wider scientific audience. Let's just say that this is merely the beginning of a long journey ahead. So nothing crazy, but of course it got traction.
I'm getting really sick of being told I can't handle stuff. Okay, if I was reading a UFO file and a bunch of guys jumped out of my closet and beat the shit out of me, I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that. But just knowing that the universe is a simulation, I think I can handle that.
Yeah. And it was, this guy's like, just say it. Exactly. Just say it. I mean, if Trump already, the president of the United States says release it, what are people scared of? You can just say that my president told me to release it, so I'm releasing it.
Maybe they're scared of ending up like one of those missing scientists.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and we'll get to some of those. Here's Burchett. You sent me this one. Doing time with George Santos. See, everyone is just talking about this subject, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Burchett is the guy. He's the most outspoken.
We have sworn testimony that there are recovered alien bodies. That is sworn testimony under oath, not in a secure setting, and nobody batted an eye, nobody laughed. And, there's just kind of a gasp in the room that finally somebody said that. And it's come from so many different sources that we really need to get to the bottom of it. We've had testimony. I don't know testimony. We've been briefed before that, of locations of where some of this stuff is. A member of Congress, a close friend of mine, and I've read these books, how somebody will approach you and stuff. And we were in the tunnel, and just so happened there's no coincidences. And this guy said to me, he said, Tim, he said, why do you want to do this? Don't you know this is going to disrupt everything? We have sworn testimony.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we get to see some proof of that.
Yep. Here's Kirkpatrick taking some shit from Gallaudet.
Well deserved.
And dude, he doesn't even flinch. He just lies, and right to his face.
Total
it's crazy
sociopath.
it's crazy to watch. This guy is something else. But that's why he's in the position he is. This is someone that after Arrow went to Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and a high position there, which is also a place known that studies UFOs and UAPs. So he got rewarded for being that way, and this is why he continues to be like this. And they still use him in a consultant capacity. Arrow does. So I don't know what event this was in, but Gallaudet got on the mic and then confronted him, which is pretty cool.
Sean, I respect you. We both have decades of government service together and in intelligence and whatnot, DOD. I'm going to ask you a point blank and put you on the spot on something. After my 2024 UAP hearing testimony in front of Congress, you had tweeted a response about my statement regarding Arrow, where you said, I came and visited Arrow and I was bitter because I didn't get a job, and that you believe that was because you didn't hire me because I was prone to conspiracy theories, and that you checked with some of my bosses on that statement. It's well out there. You tweeted it. And ultimately, I didn't go visit Arrow when you were there. It was after you left. I was invited by Mike Waschel, the Navy Intel rep, who asked me to come there. And that's what I spoke about during my hearing. And of course, I didn't look for a job. He invited me, and for me to actually go for a GS-14 job after having been an undersecretary of Commerce, that's kind of preposterous, I would say. And at the same time, when you said you check with my bosses, I had my bosses formerly were 2 2-stars, 4 4-stars, and a Secretary of Commerce who I've all spoken with, and you never really check with them. So ultimately, your statement there was an outright lie. And I want to ask you what you have to say about that.
I'd say that was not an outright lie, because Mike brought you in, you sat in my office, and we had this conversation about
you weren't
taking
there.
that.
You had left. It was
I
with
had
Tim
not
Phillips.
And the position you were looking for was an SES position.
I was not asking for a position. Remember, Mike brought me in. He asked me to come.
Well, then
Tim, let me just ask you, because time is going to be short. Do you want to shed any light on the issue itself? Exactly.
Well, good point. No, ultimately, so it's really clear that you have been executing a disinformation campaign about this. This whole slide captures it. And I know you can't acknowledge it because whoever you're on the payroll with won't allow you to. And that's my statement. So,
okay, well, that's a great statement that has absolutely no bearing from reality. So,
oh my God.
Okay.
What a piece of shit this guy is. And we've been after him for a while. We called him UFO Fauci, and finally it caught on. I even commented on one of the videos like this and said that he's UFO Fauci. And it was like, oh, it's exactly what he is. And even Jeremy Corbell liked that comment. And only 2 years.
Get him to like and share one of our podcast episodes.
Right. Yeah. What? Yeah. We never did that thing where he calls in. That's still a funny idea. So that's Stephen Greenstreet, a really good friend of Kirkpatrick. He has blocked me on my personal account, but that's fine. I troll him.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's obviously a bunch of drama going on, not even behind the scenes anymore, but with every part of the UAP field, there's so much drama. It's great.
Yeah, it is. And there's so much disinformation, and people it's the schism that we have always talked about, this fight going on in the intelligence community. So this guy, Kyle Knopp. He's a current U.S. Space Force tech and holds an active security clearance. He said he saw a TR-3B triangle craft, and he talked to Kirkpatrick about it as well.
Wow.
And yeah, so he does comment on that, but he basically says that we have one of these things because he saw it on the base.
Yeah, makes sense.
So let's hear from him.
To talk about what I saw in late 2017 at Herbert Field, Florida. I'm not just a random person. I'm an electronics mechanic for the United States Space Force. At the time of the incident, I was a civilian contractor working for Lockheed Martin on aircraft simulators. My entire career has been in and around the most advanced military aircraft in the world. I know what's normal and what's not, and what I saw was not normal.
So, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but since this doesn't exist, it's a gray area to me. The whole thing was I worked on this base, like I said, for 8 years. And then when I was doing that Lockheed Martin stuff, at this point, it's 9 years. So I'm literally a trained expert on everything on that base, communication, navigation. I would know exactly what the hell I'm looking at. But that is the AFSOC headquarters, so the Air Force Special Operations Command headquarters. So like anything, the secret squirrel stuff gets done there. And all I could hear was the gravel crunching for my tires. And I was like, what the fuck? There was no bugs. There was no birds chirping. I was like, is this sound dampening? Literally, it was like a flick inside my head. And it was just like, look up. And I was like, what the hell was that? But when I looked, there was absolutely nothing in the center. That's what caught my attention because it was the absence of light. That's why I was like, maybe I'm seeing a newer model of it. But what I originally was thinking is each one of those corners, they seem like they had a gravity distortion plasma thing. And imagine each one of those corners is kind of distorting.
How far were you from it?
And it was tree height level. Nobody's told me not to say it. I've officially talked to Arrow already, the commander of Arrow, which I didn't give a crap what his name was, but it is the one that I guess is in the news now or whatever. And
Is Sean Kirkpatrick, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick?
Yeah, something with a K for Patrick. I have like the email traffic, I'm sure, if I look it up. But I talked to him for 45 minutes. When I hit end, it was literally 45 minutes. And it wasn't like a build-up. It was like 45 minutes. Like the call is starting right the second you hit go, because it was already like we talked about it beforehand kind of thing. So, but he was very like, tell me what you know kind of thing. Like, what do you know? And it's literally just playing stupid. It started to piss me off because he's like, why do you think it's called the TR-3B? I actually have some of the stuff. I have a personal letter from Lou Elizondo. He gave me a thank you letter and gave me this coin. So I didn't tell him. I don't know. I didn't tell you this, but I'm like shaky or nervous right now. But
of course. So Kirkpatrick's like, so what do you know?
Yeah.
So why do you think it's called the TR-3B? Like, dude, you're so condescending. Like, you know,
the TR-3B is just a fascinating subject. You know, I mean, the triangular craft is spooky, and that whole thing where you sense it before you can, you like see it. Such a weird. I mean, it's happened to me. I know exactly what he's talking about. Most people know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's a very creepy sensation.
And he's like, and how the sound gets dampened, everything gets quiet, right?
Yeah.
So, which makes sense if it's making like some kind of gravity well or bubble around it. It's going to have some effects like that.
Yeah, I mean, black holes, they're in space where there's no sound, but they are so dense, they suck in time. So sucking in sound isn't that far-fetched to me.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Dr. Fred Bell, I haven't heard about this guy, but apparently so less than 24 hours after claiming to have met an extraterrestrial species in an underground military base, he mysteriously died of a heart attack.
My CIA handler probably wouldn't want me to tell you this.
Yeah.
One of the quotes. Oh, wow.
Right. And so, and this is from Ben Swan. You know, he's a great journalist. and he interviewed Roger Stone's son. What's his name? He's a great he makes great documentaries. But yeah, I think he's being interviewed here.
Do you think that these deaths are related to UFO programs?
I hate to say, I can tell a personal anecdote. When I did the show Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura back in 2011, we talked to Dr. Fred Bell, who has written many books on various theories about the UFOs and technologies related to UFOs. And Dr. Bell told us off the record he had met various other world species. I think he described one as gray alien in one of the underground military bases, because Dr. Bell had worked with the U.S. military for pretty much all of his life. He was a genius, and he'd been part of these programs, and he actually talked about meeting these beings. And within the day of telling us this off the record, he told us, well, my CIA handler probably wouldn't want me to tell you this. He was dead. They said it was a heart attack, but it was very bizarre that within 24 hours of that conversation, he was found dead in his hotel room.
Scary stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm sure it's part of the NDA that you take. I mean, even secret societies do that, like the Masons. And if you ever tell the secrets, you can get killed. You can die. So it's hard to deal.
Yeah, it's just such a horrible society to be a part of.
Yeah,
I can't imagine trying to give information to people that they deserve to know, and you die for it. That's just it's a shame. There's not even a word. It's terrible.
It is, and it could be what's underneath the surface or on these underground bases. They're doing this, the Draconians or the reptilians, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be just something really evil that's more powerful than us. That we're either working with or working for.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go back to Dulce, I mean, that's the whole point of that story. That we are in fact working with the Draconians and other species of aliens as well.
Yeah, and probably that's why they want to keep secret, because it goes so deep. So if they ever do disclose, it will be the surface level.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine imagine Trump's going to come out and say, well, you guys were asking for disclosure. Here it is. Here's my partner in crime, the Draconian.
Right, exactly. And the tall whites. Yeah.
Yeah, here are the tall whites. Yes, we've been abducting you because they're trying to rebuild their species in their own dimension or whatever. Like, that would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. But that would you're right. It's just going to be surface level stuff.
And they're eating humans and abducting children, or we're giving them children, like according to this clip. Yeah.
Or we live on a prison planet,
Yep. That makes more sense too, a prison planet, because I think a lot of, not just me, but a lot of people think that the secret comes from the phenomenon, from the others, is that if they want to keep this place a prison planet, we can't know about them.
Right.
So this is a good clip. Also, I think Collier, right? Alex Collier, he's pretty famous, but I've never seen this clip before. So he's talking about the underground cities and the reptilians.
Where there are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. And we've been told, people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, bull. Why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in the Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have?
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconians?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity.
Damn. Crazy to see that, like, after Epstein and everything has been coming out, huh?
I was just going to bring up Epstein. Yeah, I mean, it's not that, it's just one further step, right? Instead of turning them into sex slaves, they just give them away.
Yeah. Crazy. I did send you a link also of Chandra Levy's parents saying that she might have been abducted or killed because she knew too much of UFOs. I mean, I get it. They're grieving and they're looking for reasons.
That's always tough.
Yeah. So I'm giving them that, and you can tell they're still grieving about it. And it was, I remember I was in DC when that happened. When all of a sudden she was just found murdered, right? So maybe, I don't know, they do say something here, which I've never heard before, that she worked for someone, I guess one of the congressmen or senators that was investigating UFOs. So that's interesting.
A suspect. I hope he's not still sucking air, but we don't know. But around the same time Chandra was in Washington, Dr. Stephen Greer had his UFO conference in the first couple of weeks of May. He presented a lot of witnesses, a lot of whistleblowers on the UFO subject. And at that time, Chandra mentioned something that she knew about the UFOs, that Congressman Conda was on the committee to learn about UFOs.
Well, he's on the Central Higher Intelligence Committee, and that she says, oh, he believes in UFOs like I do, and that he deals with this stuff. So then it left me thinking, knowing Chandra, she's very inquisitive. Could she have known something that she wasn't supposed to know? And could she have been wiped out because she knew too much? If you go back into history, Kennedy was killed. Marilyn Monroe, of course, they thought she had a suicide, but maybe she was murdered.
Yes, and Admiral Forrestal, many years before, and William Colby, the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, they were all murdered. And of course, Stephen Greer has a list of other people involved in the intelligence on UFOs who were murdered back then. I know there's another list now, but this was in the early 2000s and long before that. So we can't say it was a part of the CIA that did it, but it's always suspicion because it sort of ruined Stephen Greer's conference when all the news came out about Chandra.
Well, but by the way, I should let you know, I think he was just on my colleague's show right before this, Katie's show right before this, Dr. Stephen Greer. So you talking about it, this is very, very relevant right now. I mean, I'm sure you know, there's a big case going on. There's a big investigation about these missing and dead scientists. Are you, just to be clear,
we're very concerned.
Do you think there's a connection between Chandra and what we're seeing now?
You never know.
There certainly could be. We're not saying that's what it is, but it all sort of fits together.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Grasping for straws.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's like you said at the top. It's two grieving parents looking for answers. And
yeah, I mean, I would probably go there too.
Yeah,
30 years later, or 25 years later.
Yeah.
This is important, I think. This is from Galactic Troubadour. You want to take this one?
Yeah, Major General McCasland, as we've covered, has been missing for quite some time now. He was lead advisor for a UFO book that opens by tying UFOs to the astral realm, or shamanism, stating, in quotes, "The appearance of the saucer is a manifestation of someone in a parallel universe using ceremonial magic to enter our world." He called them mystical machines. Interesting concept. If you go far enough down the rabbit hole, you'll come across more and more stuff like this.
Yes.
I think, I've talked about on the show a lot. I think our human perception is half of the phenomena. So whatever we're seeing isn't the 100% true form of it. We're adding a little bit of context for the craft to take shape. I think this is along those same lines. It's out there, but I think if UFOs in the UAP field was really about an advanced species from another galaxy or whatever, I don't think it would be as weird as it is. There's so much weird woo-woo stuff in the UAP field. I think if it was really Martians landing in cornfields, it'd be a lot more obvious. It'd be like,
go ahead.
Like when the people from Europe came and first got to the Americas, it was just people on ships. Yeah, it was weird, but it wasn't like some outworld thing that, they came and they had special powers. It might have, or maybe that's maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, because maybe it is that way,
Yeah, so, and I mean, I think in South America they were more shocked, right? We talked about that before, how the ships were there, but they couldn't see them,
right?
Because they weren't ready to see them. But if consciousness is based reality, then and we've also covered that these craft do use consciousness to travel and traverse whatever, by creating wormholes or just showing up all of a sudden. So that's what these occult practices and rituals do. It forms your consciousness to make a result by ritual practice, right? So there might be some proof to that, but it's weird that McCaslin. I think they're talking about Tom DeLonge's book, by the way. Oh yeah, mystical. He called them mystical machines. Oh yeah, secret machines. Yeah, by Tom DeLonge. Yeah,
very interesting. I still hope McCaslin's all right. I hope, all the missing scientists who haven't been found dead are all right, but my hopes are not high.
Well, you'll love this clip then. And this has to do with the missing scientists. This is Jesse Michaels. I love Jesse's show. It's well produced, well written, well researched. He knows his stuff. Is there an agenda behind him? Probably, because you have DJ coming out this week going after Michael's, saying that he's funded by Peter Thiel and that he steals his research. But that might be true. I think just like Corbell, I don't think Jesse is a negative. I think he's a net positive when it comes to this. But we have to see where he's pushing everyone, because he has a huge following. Huge. He's up in the millions now, I think, subscribers.
Wow, so, good for him.
Yeah, doing really well. And you'll love this. This is really well researched. And he puts the information out there really well.
Great.
So this is about the missing scientists.
So why was the upper echelon of the American government reading this book? During the Bush administration, key players in the federal government were urged to read the Chinese science fiction novel, The Three-Body Problem, written by a power plant engineer, Xijin Liu. It's about tri-Solarian extraterrestrials forced out of their own unstable solar system and headed for Earth. The tri-Solarians systematically monitor, mess with, and sometimes even kill human scientists at the frontier of human ingenuity. These are usually people working on nuclear, plasma, and particle accelerator physics. Sounds kind of familiar. Basically, the scientists that control the rules of reality itself. Why did a presidential advisor named Harold Malmgren, who worked directly with JFK, LBJ, Nixon, and Ford, and who was briefed on UFOs, why did he tell me that this is how the non-human intelligences operate, by tracking the frontier of human innovation?
They were opposed to anything which threatened their control.
So it's almost like the UFOs are more, it's not just the atomic connection, they're generically attracted to the tip of the spear as far as tech development.
That's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Why was Harold's daughter, Pippa, who was on George W. Bush's National Economic Council, tasked with reading The Three-Body Problem? And if connecting missing and dead scientists with aliens sounds super far-fetched, I get it. But it's worthy asking yourself why UFOs so very often seem to cluster around the very technologies that define strategic power. They show up at nuclear sites across the United States and the world. I've personally interviewed many whistleblowers who've worked at these bases who claim this. Robert Hastings, the author of the great book UFOs and Nukes, has talked to almost 170 of these people. There was even a UFO crash right next to Brookhaven National Labs. In case you're not aware, Brookhaven houses a very powerful particle accelerator called Cosmotron. Witnesses of the UFO crash claimed that the wreckage was cleaned up and taken to the lab. this isn't just an American phenomena. Russian General Vasily Alexeyev said that UFOs would show up when they transported sensitive scientific technology. The Soviets have records around UFOs showing up around their national labs and nuclear sites. Which brings us back to the strange question of why so many government officials were framing all of this problem. Maybe the three-body problem was hiding truth in fiction. There's an apocryphal story, and truthfully, I don't know how much weight to put in it, but it's absolutely wild. It involves former President Barack Obama and Pearl Jam lead singer Eddie Vedder drunk around a campfire. Eddie presses Obama on the true nature of reality. He wants to know how the world really works at the highest level. He senses that there are things going on above his head. Obama's answer? Read the three-body problem.
No shit. Very cool.
I hope you enjoyed the clip.
You've always told me, read the three-body problem.
Yes. It's a trilogy of books. I believe the trilogy is called The Remembrance of Earth. The first book is called The Three-Body Problem. Those books are absolutely fantastic. Some of my favorite science fiction. It's sad. It's good. It does a whole different version of meeting aliens and UFOs that you'd never expect. You said you've read it, right?